All right, welcome back to the Dungeon of Doom. I am Kyle Meinke, Lions beat reporter for MLive, joined as always by Ben Raven. Ben, I'm in Minneapolis right now. You are in the comforts of Allen Park, it looks like.
Virtual background. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just looked. I'm like, wait. You're not really at work right now, are you?
No, psycho behavior.
It's Sunday night. The Lions have put to bed a really fascinating win against the Vikings, 31-29, just a massive victory. Ben, when David Montgomery, had the fumble late and they returned it for a touchdown, the Vikings did. They took a late lead, and of course, I'm scrambling on the live story that I do for MLive, writing the loss version of my instant story, and it's just like, man, what a massive difference between winning this game to pull into the lead in the NFC North, the best division in football, and falling 2 games back and not having the tiebreaker, obviously, against the Vikings. Just a massive difference. I know it's early in the season, but this is a damn good division. If you want to win it, you got to win games like this. And the Lions found a way to do it.
Yeah, found a way, man. I mean, outside of just the brutal start to this game, but like you said, the fumble that's returned for a touchdown, and all of a sudden they're in a hole again. And then the real doom and gloom was like the negative 10-yard 3-and-out drive to punt it away after the Montgomery fumble too. So just to be able to get one last stop from the defense, which I thought was pretty solid today, and for Goff and that offense just to get in field goal range to finish that game off. This is just as resilient, and while it was a crazy game, it was like as composed of a team as you'll see in these moments. And that's just, man, what a coaching staff to be able to kind of answer those calls and just have the right dials up. And wild game, man. Wild back and forth game. I'm sure you had like 4 versions of those observations.
Oh man, my head was spinning. They don't make it easy sometimes. No, but I think the word there that I heard from you, Ben, that sits with me is composure. It's something that we heard from Dan Campbell this week. The Vikings were obviously unbeaten going into this game, and they've just rattled teams throughout the year. And the Lions knew they had to start fast, which they didn't. It was probably the worst 10 minutes of football that I've seen from this team in a long time. 3-and-out on offense with a couple of penalties and a sack, and then you have the failed fake punt. Vikings touchdown 2 plays later. Then you go 3-and-out again, a couple more penalties. I mean, it was just a dreadful start. And before halftime was here and I was standing in the buffet line, they were up by double digits. The Lions were. It was a crazy turnaround, and then you take a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter and you give it away on the Montgomery fumble. And again, you didn't lose composure. And even when they went 3-and-out on offense, you didn't lose composure. Like, to me, Ben, watching something like that, that's a team that's grown up. They have so much talent, but there's a difference between having talent and knowing how to win games. And that took some time for this regime to do. But we've seen that happen over a long period of time now. And this was a team that knew it could win because it's been there before and there was no lack of composure. And I thought there was something very almost mechanical about their last drive there. I mean, the ball was never put in harm's way. They were patient. They were running the football. I mean, it was just a team that knew it had time and the firepower to win this game. And they go all the way down there. The final play was the pass to St. Brown. And then you trot your rookie kicker out there, Jake Bates, and it's just an amazing story. Like, I didn't know this about him, but apparently he was working as a brick salesman in Houston 18 months ago. He didn't work out with the Texans, thought his NFL career was over. He was in training to be a brick salesman at Acme Brick in Houston. Like, I had to look it up. It's just like the most ordinary looking building ever. And it's crazy to think he was there, like doing ride-alongs, figuring out how to sell bricks. And to go through everything he's gone through since, to, UFL star, to Lions training camp where it was up and down, so much so that they brought in kickers for a tryout before the Giants joint practices. And now he's 10 for 10 and just hit the game winner against the Minnesota Vikings in Minnesota to give the Lions the division lead. It's just like you said, it's composure up and down the board from this roster and this coaching staff. And it came together in a thrilling win here in Minnesota.
Yeah, that last drive, the confidence in that last drive, because I'm sitting here like, holy crap, they're just letting the clock go into the 2-minute warning. Do they realize they're at their own like 28-yard line right now? And no, it's just bang, lean on your stars, Gibbs, the hot hand, lead on St. Brown. And I'm glad you bring up that Bates. You had a great headline on that story you wrote after the game on him. Just brick salesman at Acme. Sounds like some Looney Tunes stuff. But I love the story of these specialists here. Jack Fox living on Matt Prater's couch in his basement when he lands with the Lions. Jake Bates is literally kicking in front of like 2,000 people at Ford Field for the Michigan Panthers. And here he is now, man. It's just, and they didn't even like try to, they were taking kneels backwards to get him to kick. So it's just, it really does speak. Composure was the main word coming out of that game for me too. Just composed. And it's what Campbell said at halftime to the broadcast too, was just like, we knew we were going to have to like take some shots and just find a way to keep this close. And we know we got the guys to win a close game. And there you go, man. I mean, shoot, back and forth, just the win probability meter. I urge everyone to go check it out. It's a fascinating ride over at ESPN.
There was a lot of standout performances on offense, and we'll dive in a second. But I think in the first game, out of the Aidan Hutchison injury and how much attention was paid to how the Lions would proceed with that, let's start with the defense, because listen, it wasn't perfect, and I really thought the edge rush was a weakness. It was painful at times watching, Josh Pascal, Isaac Ukwu. You had James Houston out there for some reps. You had Mekhi Wingo out there for some reps, the rookie defensive tackle who was playing on the edge. And I would say it was a weakness. They did have, I think, 4 sacks, but only one of them was from the defensive front. Josh Pascal got home in the second half. And other than that, it was linebackers getting home. And a couple of those were like at the line of scrimmage, basically. So not a lot of pressure, I thought, on Sam Darnold. And yet, Ben, you start a 10-0 hole in this game right off the bat. And I thought they played pretty damn good after that. And in particular, well, first of all, Brian Branch, another pick, 4 picks in 5 weeks. I mean, the guy is just a freak. I love watching that guy play football. We could do a whole podcast series on Brian Branch, I feel like. But in the end, Ben, I want to get your perspective. You're sitting at home watching on TV, what you thought of the defense down the stretch, because I thought they made some real winning plays. It's easy to forget the 2-point conversion, but that was a huge play, which kept it as a 1-point game, keeping Minnesota out of the end zone there after the Montgomery fumble. And then, right, like you said before, Lions go 3-and-out on the following series. Minnesota's got the ball with like 4 minutes left. I mean, a couple first downs there, and the game is over. And they got no first downs. It was a 3-and-out for the Lions defense, getting the ball back with plenty of time to do the thing. And I thought that really set up what the defense was able to do, even without Aidan Hutchinson, really set up that comeback win.
Yeah, no, I mean, I will give Pascal and Houston credit for coming up with plays when they needed it most. Pascal, the sack to end the third quarter, and then Houston with a nice pressure on a third down play to open the fourth quarter, but nothing out of the edge defenders outside of that, man. And you got Pascal limping off the field 2 separate times too, just kind of speaking to the depth. But the standout group of the day for me was the linebackers. Like, I really felt like I know Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph had another great game, but I felt like the linebackers, like after that 34-yard touchdown run to open the game for Jones, where Arnold just kind of got like left in a blender there in the open field, I thought the linebackers kind of controlled the pace of that game, flying to the ball. They had 3 of the 4 sacks at the linebacker level. I mean, Anzalone and Campbell, I thought, were fantastic in coverage against the run. And then Malcolm Rodriguez is like quietly having like a really good season as a meaty part back in this rotation. And you see Nowaski, he doesn't get a ton of snaps, but he's making pressures. He had that one really impressive stop in coverage too, where he's coming downhill. But yeah, there was more to like on defense than not to like. And I do think that you saw kind of a tweaked approach by Aaron Glenn. There was a lot more blitzes. Brian Branch drew an offensive holding call on a blitz attempt for him, but I didn't see a ton there. But they were trying to manufacture pressure because it just wasn't happening at the edge. I mean, it really just was not happening from the edge guys. And I'm curious to see where they go from here. But Pascal, Houston, Ukwu, not really the answer to creating pressure. Good players, but they just don't have a pressure creator on this defense anymore. And that's going to be tough. You saw it today against this good Vikings team. I mean, they found their ways to get back in this game.
Yeah, they're going to have to manufacture that pressure. I think it's what we saw down the stretch last year, and I think the good news is they were successful. And Melifanu was a big reason for that from the safety position. And I'm really curious what they do with him when he's back. And Ben, he's back in 2 weeks in Green Bay, so that's coming down the pipe soon, provided he's healthy, I guess. But that's the expectation, and they could use that right now because. Yeah, the loss of Hutchinson is big. There's a void. Nothing you do is going to fill it, short of a Max Crosby type trade, and I wouldn't hold my breath for that. But it just means others are going to have to step up. Like we've said, we talked about it quite a bit on the podcast in the mailbag last week. But to your point, man, I thought the linebackers really it has become a real nice spot for this defense. And Anzalone continues to play great ball. And you mentioned Nowaski. I mean, Nowaski had the sack there to end the game on that final play with 1 second left. My head was spinning a little bit. I was kind of expecting a 10-second runoff. I'm like, why are they even running this play? I was there for Lions versus Seattle, the Golden Tate play. Like, I know what a 10-second runoff is. And so I was a little surprised by that. And I was holding my breath because at that point I had one story ready to go and it was Lions win. So
you're right.
I was screwed if I don't know if Aaron Rodgers type play had happened, but Nowaski thankfully put me out of my misery and ended that game with a very nice pressure. And interestingly, Alex Anzalone said in the locker room after the game that they had studied that particular play from Minnesota, that formation and the whatever. And on those plays, like the specific pressure they brought was successful every time they saw it on film. So they were pretty confident someone was getting home. It was just an alignment thing is what Anzalone said. And it was Nowaski who busted through and ended the game. So you got, I mean, listen, it was not great from the edge rushers. I was really, I mean, I just didn't see a lot of uncomfortableness from Sam Darnold coming from the edge. But you give credit for winning plays. That this is the NFL. Like the goal is to win. It's not to rack up as many sacks as you can at a particular position group. You're just going to have to do it in different ways now in Detroit, and they did it today against a very good team.
Yeah, no, it's finding ways to win. I mean, they had to keep finding different ways to win today. But yeah, it is. There's a Hutchinson-sized hole on the edge of that defense for sure, and it's you do start wondering about the home stretch and how they're going to find that pressure. But great note on Melifanu. I was wondering when he was due back too, but yeah, I think you're just going to kind of see the linebackers. Yeah, 3 of the 4 sacks for the linebackers today. Pascal with the sack, and then DJ Reader with the other quarterback hit were the only 2 defensive linemen to even touch the quarterback, and the pressure numbers are way down. So yeah, it's going to be on Aaron Glenn to kind of conjure some stuff up because it can't continue like that, and it's disappointing to see James Houston get these chances and not make some noise because it's like, man, where is that guy? They just need something like that. They need that spark plug.
The good news is the Lions still have an offense, and that offense is very, very good. And Jared Goff is like, I mean, I put in a headline on MLive. He's on an all-time heater. He completed his first 15 passes today, including all of them in the first half. Once again, that's happened 3 times in the last 4 weeks. Man. Ben, there's only one other quarterback who's done that multiple times in his career since 1991, Peyton Manning. And now Goff has done it 3 times in 4 weeks. It's really incredible stuff. Had the pass in the third quarter, bad at the line of scrimmage, comes right back. Real nice completion over the middle. I think it was 22 yards to Tim Patrick, and then finishes off the drive with a 3rd down touchdown pass to Khalif Raymond. Again, just resilient winning kind of football from Jared Goff. It started bad. There was the Montgomery fumble late, and both times they bounced back to beat a really, really good team. And they're doing against one of the best defenses, most aggressive defenses in the league. I saw at one point that Goff had completed 9 straight passes against the blitz.
That's crazy. Yeah,
it is crazy. His passer rating was 140 in this game. That's 3 straight games with a 140 passer rating, something only 3 other guys have done. I mean, this whole podcast could be just Jared Goff numbers. It really, like, these last 4 games from him are so efficient, so good, turnover free, and he's making winning plays when the Lions need him. You can't say enough about the kind of football Jared Goff is playing right now.
Yeah, and he's not just dinking and dunking it around either, playing at this efficient level. He had 6 completions thrown downfield of longer than 10 yards today. I mean, just spreading it out too. I mean, Sam Laporta is on a milk carton somewhere this year, and Goff is still playing at this level. Jameson Williams was held to 1 catch for minus yardage today, and he's still playing at this high level. It's just getting what he got out of Khalif Raymond today, getting what he's getting out of Tim Patrick and his limited looks is just. And I got to give it up to the running backs today. The running backs were clutch in the passing game today, and Goff just kind of knows when to throw it their way. To know there just seems to be an unspoken language between those guys and knowing where to be, what direction to go when they get going. But man, when he's clicking with St. Brown like they were today, I mean, it's so automatic that it gets overlooked. And that's what one of the things I said in my post-game video was just like St. Brown had 8 catches on all 8 targets for 112 yards and 1 touchdown today. And it was like the easiest looking thing you'll see. It's just automatic and just, I mean, it's not anything to say Goff is playing at an MVP level. I mean, the man is playing at an MVP level today. His offensive line was not at his best today against a very aggressive defense, and he stood in there tough as nails as he always is and just threw that to a 25, 88% completion percentage. And courtesy of Next Gen Stats, that's 12 percentage points higher than the expected value. So Goff was out there balling, man, just absolutely balling and throwing it around.
Yeah, throwing it around. I think that is the key with Jared Goff. You know, 1 week it's Jameson Williams over the top. The next week it's Amon-Ra. This, you know, in Minnesota going 8 for 8 for 112 and a touchdown. You know, take away Sam Laporta, that's fine. They got Jahmyr Gibbs in the flat. 4 catches, 44 yards. He has so many places to go with the football, and he has so much confidence and so much familiarity with the system that he knows he can work through his progressions and someone's going to be open. There's too many guys on the field who can ball. That's the problem. Like, they've created some mismatches with their personnel. And in Minnesota here, Jared Goff said that he saw a lot of too high safety. The Vikings were selling out against the downfield pass, and we've seen some of that from Minnesota too. In fact, I think before this game, they hadn't allowed a touchdown outside the red zone, which is interesting because the line did it twice. But the Vikings were really sitting back and making the Lions sustain drives. And so Jared Goff took it, and he completed 22 of his 25 passes while doing it for 280 yards. It's just good quarterbacking. You know, he's not going to throw the ball 80 yards down the field, but he's going to complete almost all of his passes. He's second in the league right now in accuracy, playing extremely efficient football and just taking what's there. And Sam Laporta fantasy owners might not like it. Jameson Williams fantasy owners might not like it. But there's a lot of people in Allen Park and throughout Detroit right now who are celebrating a first place team, and that's all that really matters.
No doubt. And I mean, just to have a backfield like this, it really is a marvelous offense to sit back and kind of watch, because when Montgomery gets hurt, he has the fumble late in the game. It's not his best day, but Gibbs was just fantastic today. 15 carries, 116 yards, 2 touchdowns, career long 45-yard touchdown. Finally broke one over the top. That had been driving him and coaches crazy over the last couple of weeks, is how close he was to breaking one. And while I said it wasn't the offensive line's best day in pass protection, I thought they had a damn nice day blocking. And whenever Gibbs ran on Penei Sewell's backside, it was a good time. I mean, I know he had that nice juke in the open field, but I think Sewell murdered like 3 guys on that Gibbs touchdown run. And also shout out on the seam pass to St. Brown, Sewell blocking 2 guys too.
Best play of the game, Ben. I'm glad you brought that up. I thought, listen, they scored 31 points, and I thought the best singular play I saw from a single play on that field was Penei Sewell blocking his guy, realizing there's an unblocked guy coming up the inside gap, and reaching out with his arm just in time to basically push him to the ground and giving Goff just enough time to get off the pass to St. Brown over. It was just a spectacular play.
No, man. It's when you got pillars like this and you've got a coaching staff like this, and you can weather a Hutchinson injury and just the emotional toll coming out of that game and just handling a wacky game like this, and you got guys like Sewell. I mean, there's not more than 1.5 or 2 people in the league that can make plays like that. It's an impressive. The state of the franchise is strong. That's what I come out of this game thinking. Even through the ups and downs, it's like, man, this franchise they have built just a strong top to bottom operation here to be able to weather the storm that they're weathering right now.
I completely agree with you, Ben. And to go back to Gibbs and to make your point,
Yes,
you
yeah.
know, this is a team that is built to win on the ground, right? Like that's like they can beat you a lot of different ways, but ultimately their identity is physical football with one of the most diverse run schemes in the league, and they want to beat you on the ground. That's the way they're built. And Dave Montgomery has been doing it every week for going back to last year. And I think this was his first game in like 9 regular season games where he didn't have a touchdown run. He had the knee injury and left for a while, comes back, wasn't quite himself, I thought. And then he had the big fumble late. Like these are cataclysmic things that like end teams in games. And yet Jahmyr Gibbs goes out there in the series after Montgomery has his injury and runs for a 45-yard touchdown and puts a safety in the spin cycle. 160 yards from scrimmage in this game from Jahmyr Gibbs. Extremely productive as a runner as well as a pass catcher. He was there when the Lions needed him with Dave Montgomery not having his best day, and they scored 31 points against one of the best defenses in football. I mean, that's depth. Like you are built to weather the storm, and we'll see on the Aidan Hutchinson thing because that's a huge loss. And you've also lost Marcus Davenport and John Kaminsky and Derek Barnes and all these other guys. But they've done it so far. And after that Aidan Hutchinson injury on a day where Dave Montgomery doesn't have his best stuff, guys step up on both sides of the ball and you beat one of the last unbeatens in the league. It's good stuff.
Oh, it's great. It really is. It's great stuff. One of the best coach teams. I really can't say nice enough things about Kevin O'Connell and the work he's done in Minnesota. So, I mean, you're not just beating a good team with an aggressive defensive coordinator. I mean, you're beating one of the best coach teams in the NFL with a quarterback who is really clicking in the system. And Justin Jefferson, man, I know he had that big touchdown, but he got in a matchup with Amik Robertson. He better be catching a touchdown in that matchup coming from the slot on that route he runs. So I just think what they were able to do in Minnesota today, it's just a reminder. This is one of the just best constructed and well coached outings or outfits in the NFL too. So that's a weird game, but it's just like you could go in different directions on how you feel about this one. But to me, it just kind of solidifies the belief that even without a Hutchinson, this is still one of the top contending teams in the league. And it's just really what they did today was really impressive.
Yeah, it's bottom line. It's what good teams do. Like every single team in this league has in teams have the depth and the coaching, the personnel to weather those injuries, and the Lions do. They continue their role, Ben. And I mean, I just think about the coaching. Like I go back to Jake Bates, like a totally unproven kid, never even kicked a field goal in college. Yes, he had some success in the UFL. Then he comes to Detroit this summer. We watched him have some bad days, and the scrimmage was especially bad. And the Lions had their little kicker tryout. There's a lot of teams that would have signed a kicker. We both thought they were going to sign a kicker in that moment before they went to New York. We were on this podcast saying that.
Yes.
And they didn't. They stuck with Bates. And even through some ups and downs at the end of camp, they said Jake Bates is our kicker, and here's why. And they said his leg strength, his physical talent is so unique and so great that when you go out there for pregame warmups, the other team is like jealous that you have him, and they wish they had a guy like him. And they said you just need to be patient because the talent is there. And what's really interesting, man, I dug this out from my story on Jake Bates, was the quote we got from Dave Phipp, the special teams coordinator, using Minnesota of all teams as an example. Minnesota spent a 5th-round pick on Daniel Carlson in like 2017 or 18, I think. And the kid misses 3 of his first 4 field goals, and they cut him. It's like 2 games into the season or whatever. Then he goes to Vegas, has an awesome year. I think he made 17 of 19. And now he's been a first-team All-Pro, set the record for 50-yarders, all the kind of stuff. That was the cautionary tale that Dave Phipp told us, saying, hey, listen, we think Jake Bates might not be quite ready, fully formed, but he's got such a great leg that we're going to roster him anyway and work with him and just give us some time. And now here they are. Jake Bates is 10 out of 10 on the season and just hit the game winner 44-yarder, and he piped it too, right down the middle. It's just a fun, interesting story that really shows that these coaches know what they're doing, Ben. And, they continue to hit the right buttons. And in Minnesota, it really paid off.
Yeah, just one last piece to add on Bates. I just remember the whole time Campbell and Phipp were both in unison on saying the kid's just got something about his mental makeup. There's something that makes you believe in him, and it speaks to the developmental powers of this staff too. I mean, it's what else is there to say, man? This kid was creating bricks for a Looney Tunes named operation 18 months ago, and now look at him.
It's crazy. It reminds me a little bit of Don Muehlbach, that whole story where he had come out of college, he tried out with the Ravens, he got cut, he went back to Texas of all places, and was pretty close to Houston actually, and was working in a bank. And he was working in a bank until the Lions called him like halfway through that season and was like, "Hey, do you want to come play?" And he was here for like 20 years.
He's still here.
It's just an amazing story. And Jake Bates, an amazing story too. And I mean, listen, for all of his struggles in training camp, even then you were like, I've never seen leg strength like him. Like he was hitting 58 yarders with 10 yards to spare. It was crazy stuff. And you can see where the Lions would want to work with him. And listen, it's only 10 kicks, so it's a small sample size. But so far, clearly, I think they have something and potentially something special in the kid.
No, it'll be fascinating to see if they ever let him. I wonder if the Vikings would have had him if they would have attempted that 68-yard field goal to finish the game.
The Lions are 5-1 after this big win in Minnesota, tied with the Vikings atop the NFC North, heading into a game next week against the very beatable Tennessee Titans. I guess, Ben, like, how do you feel, big picture speaking here, just as we get out of here, big picture, how do you feel about the Lions' title chances now coming out of this game?
Great. I mean, honestly, great. I still think, as I said, I mean, I think they proved today that even without one of their pillars, one of the league's best defensive players, that they should be the favorites in the NFC North. I mean, the offense that they have and the defensive pieces that they have and a budding star in Brian Branch are enough to kind of figure things out, take the hits, weather the storm, and come out, man. I really, this was an optimism-inducing win for me here today, and getting the Titans before you head to Green Bay back into the division, that's a potentially really freaking good spot to be.
For me, it was a good reminder that there's life after Aidan Hutchinson. He is such a good player and a vital component to that defense. And I mean, he accounted for as many sacks as the rest of the team combined. Like there's no understating his value to the defense. This game is a good reminder of what Dan Campbell and so many others have told us in Allen Park, which is this is a team game. It's 11 on 11 on 11. Offense, defense, special teams. And you just have to find other ways to win. The intangibles across the roster have to step up. Players have to step up and step into the void. We saw it today with huge performances from guys like Jared Goff, Brian Branch, and so on. Yes, Ben, they lost a monster playmaker. That could be detrimental when you get to the playoffs and you're playing these great teams in elimination time. But they have a long time before then. And today is another reminder to me that this team is just, they lost a playmaker. They're still loaded with playmakers, and they took out the best team in the NFC North, a previous undefeated team. And I was very impressed with how they did it.